Hello everybody, it's Theia. Welcome back to Garden Goddess Tarot. It is time for our monthly tarot roundup, which is something I always kind of look forward to. It's pretty much the only thing that I've like committed myself to is these like monthly tarot videos, and I think it's a nice pace. So we're gonna continue going forward like that, and I'm really excited to talk about a lot of the things in the tarot sphere that have been keeping me going this month. First, I would like to touch on the mandatory garden update. Finally, there has been a break in the weather. Today, it is like maybe 5 degrees Celsius and things are starting to get a bit squishy. There's still like a foot of snow on the ground, but there are patches of actual ground that I can see now, which is making me feel so much better than I had previously. So very excited there. There's some sad news in the garden department. One night, a chilly, frosty February evening, a very hungry baby deer came and absolutely decimated one of my cedar trees. It just nibbled all of the growth off the outside of it. That thing was, I had it grown for 3 years. It was gonna be like a staple piece, but it ate it. So I watched it do it too. It was in the morning. I opened the door to let the dogs out at like 6:30 and it was just standing right there nomming away on my tree. So I sent the dogs after it. Obviously the snow Steve Arthur can't run that fast, so the deer got well away, but it managed to probably kill my poor tree in the meantime. So if the tree doesn't make it, we dig it out, we put something else there. That is just the name of the game when it comes to gardening. I've kind of resigned myself to that level of, you know, what's the word? Contentment. If something dies, it dies. If something lives, it lives. It's gonna be the way it's gonna be, and the way the garden ends up is, in my brain, I'm thinking how it was meant to end up, so I'm just letting things do their thing and not feeling super invested in certain plants because some of them make it, some of them don't, and I don't want to be devastated when one of them gets eaten. So that's a garden development, I guess. Anyway, otherwise everything's still under a foot of snow. The hellebores might be budding up, but I can't see them. They're under the snow, and otherwise everything just is naked and frigid and quite cold. But there are warmer temperatures on the horizon, so within the next 2 weeks things are going to start seeming to be more in the guise of spring instead of the depths of winter, which we like. So that is good. Okay, that'll be it for the garden related update. I find it really hard to come on here and just not acknowledge the state of the world at the moment. It's been playing a big part in where my brain has been kind of sitting, like this last week. It's just been awful and I need to step away from like watching news outlets, but I can't really do that because I want to stay updated, but I also don't want to be like glued to the screen all day long, just literally doom scrolling. My heart is with the Ukraine and the people in it, and I want to talk a little bit about this. This has kind of been my tie to the situation in a weird way. So this is where I keep my original Rider-Waite-Smith deck. This is the one I got back in the early 2000s. It's old, it's beat up. You've seen it before, I've mentioned it before, but where it lives is a very special place. This leather pouch I purchased from an Etsy shop last spring, and it's custom made for me, and it came from the Ukraine. It came from an Etsy seller named Dimitri, and I have cherished it ever since I got it. It obviously means so much to me that I kept my most prized tarot deck inside of its safe confines. But as soon as I heard about what was going on, I immediately thought about Dimitri, who sent me the most lovely note when he sent this with it, and my heart broke into like a million pieces. So I sent Dimitri a message saying that I don't know if you're gonna get it. His Etsy shop is obviously closed. Being from Kyiv, he lives right in Kyiv. So I sent him a message. I said, I'm not sure if you're gonna get this at all, but if you do, just know if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. My heart is with you and everybody in Ukraine. And And I didn't know if he was going to respond, but I thought about him a lot every single day. Whenever I would watch the news, he was kind of my mental tie to what was going on. And just this morning I got a message back from Dmitry saying that his family's okay. They've moved out of Kyiv. They're in the countryside, and for now him and his family are okay. And it makes me feel quite a bit better, but still, like, absolutely heartbroken. So my husband and I made a rather large donation to the Canadian Red Cross, who was matching donations, and all of it is going overseas to help as much as we possibly can. I will link the link to that down below. If you're Canadian, please donate as much as you possibly can. The government is matching it dollar for dollar, and I feel so helpless, but that's I don't know, it's the best thing I can think to do right now, and anything I can do to help, I want to do. So sincerely hope that things get resolved quickly and safely, and with the minimum amount of loss of life. And I sincerely hope that Dmitry is gonna be okay. Okay. So, that being said, I've obviously been turning to tarot for a multitude of reasons this last month, and it helps. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've been using to, I don't know, gain clarity, mental gymnastics, you know how it is. Whew. Okay, I'm composed myself a little bit. We're here, bringing it back around. Focus. So the first deck that I grabbed to was the Fountain Tarot. This tarot deck is, I feel like, the most neutral tarot deck that I have. It's mass market. It's on the pricier side for mass market. It's beautiful. So there are 3 creators to the Fountain Tarot, Jonathan, Jason, and Andy. Their last names escape me. But it is an absolutely stunning, very clear, very visceral deck. It's the most ambiguous deck I've got. So if I want something that's not too dark but not too fluffy, it just kind of rides that middle line of clarity, sharpness, analytical. It's a very airy deck in that regard. I like this deck for that. So I was using this one quite a lot at the beginning of the month, and then in the last week or so it came out as just a straight shooter, shall we say. Oh, the death card. I always thought there was a printing problem with the death card. Like, oh, what happened there? They didn't finish printing it, but I think it is part of the effect. I've watched a few walkthroughs, and all the cards seem to look like that, so it's very interesting. Makes you think. A bit of, contrast between lightness and darkness, bit of a duality type of thing. You guys all know I do love my duality, my pillars of black and white and the middle path. That's kind of one of the main symbols that I return to as like the central part of my tarot philosophy. If that makes any sense. My duality, my pillars, my middle path. It's just kind of how I perceive the whole structure basically of the tarot. So that, the Tree of Life, Kabbalah, Sephiroth, Abyss, and then the duality of the pillars kind of form my like basic knowledge of tarot, in which I can apply to all the decks. So anyway, this deck is rife with that, and we love it. So that has been one that I've been playing with quite a bit, working with, playing. It's all the same. And I like that one for a clear-cut straight shooter. I also have been unable to put down the Pagan Otherworlds. I think this is, I didn't know this was going to be a wintry deck for me, but I think it just is. I think this time of year when things are bleak outside, weather-wise, and, slow, not too busy, the pace is that of a snail. This deck works really well. I found great comfort in it again. So I've been using the Pagan Otherworlds a lot. Images are stunning. I've talked about it before, but it was a good one to return to this last month. The other thing that I did that I think really refreshed my tarot practice and helped me go deeper is I put reversals back in my decks. So one thing that happened in the midst of accumulating a bunch of decks last year is I noticed that I stopped putting reversals in my decks because every time I got a new one, it was something new. So I had to kind of figure out all of the upright meanings of the cards based on their relation to the deck they were in, and I found that if I put reversals in them, it just got too overwhelming to learn all of those new decks and have reversals in them. But since I've stopped buying decks by the boatload, I've gone back to putting reversals in my decks, reading with reversals, and it brings me right back. That's how I like tarot. I've decided I don't like tarot without, it depends on the deck. I shouldn't say that. Some decks I don't like reversals in, but the vast majority of the ones that I like to read with, especially the clear-cut readers like the Pagan Otherworlds and the Fountain Tarot, I really like having reversals in them because it adds an extra level of darkness and light to it. It's, instead of trying to figure out if this card is in light or shadow, because I don't always read with spreads, it's just easier to have it upright or reversed because it's very clear to me what it means that way. It's not like, oh, let me try and think of a good example. Three of Cups. Say you get the Three of Cups. How do you decide if that Three of Cups is in light or shadow for you? How do you know if it means that it's celebration and revelry with your friends, or if it's maybe you're spending too much time with other people and not working on yourself enough? Like, how do you know? How do you, especially if you're reading for yourself? If you're reading for other people, you can kind of intuitively guess, but when you're reading for yourself, it's really hard to get those intuitive hits, especially if you're working with yourself. So having reversals in there takes the guesswork out of it for you and kind of will force you to look at the more shadow aspects when needed, instead of just glossing over them, pretending everything's okay when the cards are maybe trying to like poke you in a certain direction. So I like reversals in my decks. I've started using them again, and it's brought a really fresh perspective to my tarot practice, and I've been really enjoying that. So the next deck that I've obviously been, it's never not by my side. It sits next to me on my desk, and I pick it up whenever I feel the need, and it's the Hellenic Oracle deck. I've been getting some really great messages from the Greek gods this last month. I tend to pull 2 to 3 cards, sometimes more if I need a little extra clarity, but that kind of strings together a lovely message for me most days, and it just does the trick. Or sometimes I will just kind of ask which energy deity is, you know, helping me / present throughout my day, and I'll pull a card and it'll be a great time. I've really gotten to experience the variety of moods that this deck can present. The combinations of the cards just take me in all sorts of directions and places, from the highest highs to the lowest, scariest, most existentially dreadful lows. It runs the gamut between both of those, and it can be anywhere in between. So I'm chuffed with this, absolutely still. What month was it I got it in my hands finally? Was it August? I think I finally got it in my hands, and I haven't been able to put it down since, and it's been well used, well loved, and I'm, yeah, thoroughly enjoying it. So for those of you who don't know what this deck is, if you're new, it is the deck I created. It is available for purchase on Make Playing Cards if you want it. Actually, I'll show you some cards. I'm the worst. I'm like waving it around, talking about how great it is, and all you can see is Thanatos here. It is my Greek Pantheon compilation deck. It's got the main Pantheon, it's got Titans, it's got some humans in some places in it just for flavor. So it's fantastic. I love it. 90 cards. So there's a walkthrough video of it in great detail. I will link it below if you're curious as well. I won't go on too long about it because I always seem to, but that's because I love it. And it's my baby. And it might have a sibling one day soon. top secret news. Don't tell anybody. Okay, with that one, I occasionally do pull in the Majestic Earth. Again, I won't talk about this one too long. I messed around with it last month too, and it's just kind of stayed out. It's just, it pairs so nicely with it, and it gives me those outside feels that I desperately want in the wintertime. So it's my Sublime Nature deck. The earth under the influence of humans at their best. And I quite like it for that. So we're not gonna talk about that one too long either. But to be honest, I've been working with it this month. I also did my usual with the Edmund Duloc and the Hush Tarot. These ones are not going anywhere anytime soon. I can't stop using them. They're my decks, and I'm so glad they are. I remember when I first got the Hush Tarot and I was unsure whether or not it was gonna like survive past the moody days of the late fall when everything is gray and crackly and the birds are cawing and all of the bugs and plants have gone to sleep. You know, that time when everything's just on the cusp of winter. There is a cool chill in the air and everything is definitely dead. But it's still fall. The ground crunches when you walk everywhere. Anyway, that's the mood, the feeling that this deck gives me. And I wasn't sure if it was gonna survive past that into the winter. And it just has. Jeremy Hush, his art makes you feel things. If you like this deck and you want to experience it in a wonderful, wonderful way, I've discovered a channel. I say I've discovered it like I dug it out of the ground or something, but I didn't. It existed happily on its own. Sorsha, from Sorsha Soaring Craft, I think that's her name. But I hope it is. Anyway, her name is Sorsha and her channel is fantastic. She has absolutely impeccable taste in decks, if I do say so myself. And she talks a lot about dark decks, about aesthetic. She's so well spoken. Her love of the same type of art as me, like, it tickles me all the way to my bones. So I would highly recommend checking out Sorsha and her channel if you're into that, and you won't be sorry. But she absolutely, I remember her specifically talking about the Hush Tarot and it making me very happy. So I would definitely recommend checking her out if you like this style of deck, or perhaps the Rackham Tarot, or she talks a lot about dark decks and Bosch and other pre-Raphaelite art. It's great. It's great. And the Edmund Duloc, of course. It's a classic around here, giving you all the moody feels. This one is almost like an inner child deck for me because it does kind of evoke those memories of childhood and that type of art style in children's books that I was subject to. So anyway, it is lovely. So those are two that I think are going to be forever decks for me, which is so comforting to know. I'm not going to say soul decks, I don't like that word, but I just think these ones are just like staples. They're like the main decks in the main decks versus mood decks category, so that makes my heart happy. Okay, the last oracle deck that I want to mention today is one that I actually pulled out quite a bit. These are the Shamanic Healing cards by Michelle Matuzis. This is a deck that I liked because of its keywords. I don't like the guidebook. I'm going to say that off the front, but I don't use the guidebook ever. And I also don't like that there's words on the back, but we can get over that. It's a Schiffer deck. It has Schiffer cardstock, which I don't mind. You guys know I don't mind cardstock. We have to change the frame. I just can't do it. I should know better. Okay. Fix the frame. I really don't know what. Don't do that from the beginning. Anyway, okay. I'm not a huge fan of the words on the back. The cardstock is Schiffer cardstock. I don't care. I don't mind. But if you don't like the sharp gilding, this one's not too bad, but you may not enjoy this. But this deck is, what is this deck? I'll show you some cards and we'll talk about it. They are, I don't know, I just like they don't feel particularly rooted in a specific culture, if that makes sense, for a you know, shamanic deck. And some of the keywords, I don't know, I find they pair really well with each other to create unique messages, instead of, you know how sometimes with oracle decks, if you pull more than one card at once, the messages kind of conflict, or they don't make sense together, or they don't get along. But this kind of strings together nicely to form like a sentence or a new idea or that sort of thing, which is the type of oracle deck that I really like. This one, let's see, we've got grounding, struggle, growth. So, for example, if you took those three, pulled those three out, you can kind of weave together for yourself a story with those three ideas, and it will kind of bake itself into a little cake of an idea for you really well. So I like this kind of oracle deck for that. So I've been pulling this one out quite a bit, and it's been nice. It does a little bit of like predictive-y readings, which aren't always my favorite, but I'm learning to, like, they're growing on me. There's a death card. I always like it when there's a death card in an oracle. I feel like I'm not doing the best job explaining this particular deck. I always try and explain my experience with it as opposed to just like, hey, look, these are the cards and you can figure it out for yourself. But for me, this one has been, it's clear, and it kind of, it picks me up and it takes me out of the like perhaps unpleasant frame of mind I might be in, and like challenges me to take a look at where I am from the outside, instead of kind of like pulling the guts out of the inside of a situation for me. It like lifts me out of the situation and makes me look at it from above, from a new perspective, and I like it for that. It's clear in that way. So I don't know, is that a good way to describe it? I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about it. So that's a Shamanic Healing Oracle. I like it, and I tend to not mix it with tarot. This is one I just kind of use on its own, which is, other than my Hellenic deck, kind of rare for an oracle. Most of the time I like to pair them with tarot. This is absolutely how I love my tarot decks. The size, this cardstock, the way they shuffled so effortlessly. Gonna riffle shuffle them without any pain to my poor dainty hands. It just feels in my heart like the size and shape of a tarot deck. So I'm on the record saying that I love tuck box decks. They are my favorite. Anyway, the Klimt Tarot. This is the Gustav Klimt Tarot. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck by A.A. Atanasov. I think he's also responsible for the Botticelli Tarot and the Bosch Tarot. Anyway, this is the Klimt one. These are the backs. These are the fronts. Welcome to a tarot video. Anyway, they're shiny. They got gold on them. They are kind of tarot molded reformulations of Klimt's art, and it makes me so happy. I can't explain it. It's one of those art compilation decks, but it has some unique. So some of the art was specifically created for this deck, but it was using elements of Klimt paintings, so kind of been transmuted into a wonderful collection of images for a tarot deck. Some of them I recognize, some of them I don't, and I've learned I don't really like. I like not knowing all of the references, and yeah, they're beautiful. Nudity alert, but they're just stunning. They've got the gold. The facial expressions just kind of hit me the right way. I really like this one, and I've been, you know, reaching for it often. This one actually, it's funny, because usually I just toss the little white books that come in tuck box decks, but this one and the next one, actually, the meanings are kind of, it's fun to kind of check. So I'll do my initial reading, I'll look at it, and I'll come to my own conclusions. Then if I've got time, I will go to the little white book just to see if there's any extra tidbits that I can pick and choose from the description to apply to my situation, and I've quite liked that. So I've actually been keeping the tuck box, or the little white book, in the tuck box with it, and it lives in my little tuck box cabinet happily, and it makes me so happy. So Klimt Tarot is one that I used lots last month and will continue to use. And in the same vein, another delicious tuck box deck is a relatively new one to the world. This is the Surrealist Tarot, another Lo Scarabeo deck. And this is a deck by Luigi Di Giamarino. My Italian is awful, but this deck is fantastic. I need to say that this deck and the next one violate my 2020 depth year technically rules, even though I left them very loose. I was in a bit of a, I stress shopped. It happens. It happens to everybody. I got this deck and I got the next one. Knowing full well I wasn't supposed to, but I have no qualms. I'm not mad at myself. I'm happy I did it. They're both fantastic. And as long as I don't keep doing it, we should be fine. And just remember, it's your depth here. You make the rules. You can also change the rules to fit your situation. Look after you. You are the most important. So that being said, the Surrealist Tarot is fantastic. And I don't know why I didn't put it on the list of, it came on and off my list of to pick up when it comes out decks, because I remember when it was first announced and I was like, yeah, I need that is something right up my street. And I was trying to like step away from just picking up everything that was kind of up my street, but this was like really up my street. So it went on and off the wish list for a long time, and then I think eventually just stayed off. And then one day I just decided, you know what, I'm in the mood for some mind-bending tarot perspectives. Like I wanted a new perspective, and this tarot definitely does it. This is also one I've colored on the little book. I use the book. The book will always be with this deck because I love the way they did it. This is how to do little white books. Oh my gosh. So you've got your existing tarot knowledge structure. You kind of have the way you understand tarot cards. And then you look at the cards, and I'm going to show you some of them. The labels are on the bottom. You know, standard low scarabeo. You know I love it. The images are absolutely off the wall, and you would expect nothing less from a Surrealist tarot deck. But this is one where I get to practice my intuitive reading. This is one where I get to like push past my preconceived notions and just flow with the images, get the hits that I want to get, immerse myself in the experience of the images, feel the feelings, think the thoughts, ignite the passions that it does. And then once I've kind of reached this place where I'm like, oh wow, okay, that's what I'm getting from these cards, I'll go to the book, and the book just has a small sentence on each card, but each sentence, or maybe two, there's a sentence and a quote for the majors, and then just kind of like a sentence for the minors, but each one is so poignant and perspective changing and thought provoking that I really appreciate it. These are the backs, by the way. Gorgeous. So good. So let's do an example. I want to do an example for you because they're so good. So let's find a major. Here's Justice. I just pulled out Justice. So here's what Justice looks like. Isn't she gorgeous? Take a second to think about that card, what it means to you in regards to your understanding of the concept of justice in the tarot. Also, you'll notice that this is card number 8. I do love it when Justice is an 8. This and, yeah, it's so funny how many of my favorite tarot decks have it at 8. But anyway, it's funny how that came up. Alright, so, that image in your mind, thinking about your idea of what justice means to you, let's read what the book says. The empty mask. The flip side of things, more fascinating than the appearance. Education is a dress. It is a paint whose presence does not necessarily mean that knowledge has been assimilated. Anyway, all the majors kind of do that. It's just like a statement that relatively kind of relates, but it's a quote. So that last bit, education is a dress, like a piece of clothing, dress. It is a paint whose presence does not necessarily mean that knowledge has been assimilated, is a quote from Antonin Artaud, who's a surrealist artist from the time. Also, it pulls in Man Ray, it pulls in Dali, it pulls in Duchamp, like Rene Magritte. It's got all of the great surrealist artists. They've got their quotes in here. So not only do you have representations of their art in the images, kind of hidden and melded in there. There's one where Frida's hidden in it too, and everybody recognizes the "Ce n'est pas une pipe." This is not a pipe, and this one it says this is not a train. But anyway, I love to play these little mind games with myself and kind of explore the edges and confines of reality, and this is the perfect deck to do that with. Oh, I've really been enjoying using this just for fun. I don't think this would be one that I would pull out immediately for like a client or reading for someone else. because it's a lot, unless they like really wanted that kind of like mind-bending fuckery. Like if I got a reading from someone and they started talking this and I would like, when I wasn't ready for it, I would not be particularly impressed, but I absolutely dig it. It is so cool. It is unique. I've never seen a tarot deck like this before. So if you're into it, I would highly recommend checking it out. I think Dustin at Modern Metaphysique did a walkthrough of this as well, if you want to see all of the cards in their, you know, HD up close glory. But I'll show you another couple fun ones that I like. This one's the wheel. This is a great wheel card. It's on the box too. I like that. The Three of Swords. This one's cool. I like that Three of Swords. Like, I'll take that one. I don't know. And maybe it was just because the timing of the readings I was doing was hitting at the right moment. But yeah, this one's been doing it for me these days, and I've been thoroughly enjoying it. So that is the Surrealist Tarot by Luigi Di Giammarino. Oh, and I also want to mention the edging is me. I edged it in like a navy blue and a black, alternating every other card. Actually, no, it wasn't every other card. It was 2 blues and 1 black. So to get the perfect shade of navy to match the backs. But I think it did a pretty good job. So that's all me. Comes naked. If you're into surrealist art, then that one is delicious. The next deck is another one that I picked up. This one could be argued that I needed the least because it's another version of the RWS. But, oh, it's all fluffy. Just went in a bag. Anyway, this is the low scarabee version of the Rider-Waite-Smith. I've been using my special one. It lives on my altar, and it holds its own sacred space, and it's special, and it stays there, and it is used only for very like particular readings, because me and that deck are like tight. Anyway, the other one that I had been using was the Borderless Centennial Edition, and I've always had that little niggle in the back of my brain going, you should probably get the bordered one, because I feel like when there's no borders on it, I thought I would want the big borderless. But also, another unpopular tarot opinion, I think I'm a border girl. I like borders. I like how they frame and contain the art, and very rarely do I actually, in my heart of hearts, feel like the art needs to be free from it. The couple times that I've trimmed borders off of decks, all the way. I trimmed the Gaian Tarot, but I trimmed 2 borders off, but I left one. So I trimmed that one, but it still has a border on it. But the other one that I trimmed was the Wildwood. Trimmed the border off it, and I wasn't super happy with how that went. I also trimmed the Ancient Italian, and I'm still like, maybe I should have left them on too. So I think I'm a tuck box girl, and I like borders on tarot decks. Who'd have thought? Anywho, the other part about that is the card stock. I don't care about cardstock, but it was hurting my thumb. I was riffle shuffling it, and it's a thick cardboard. I'm not even kidding. I riffle shuffle a lot. I do it as like a sort of a relaxing thing, maybe. Anywho, I'm not gonna say I sprained my thumb, but this thumb was starting to get sore, and I can't just not riffle shuffle. And this thinner cardstock of the Lo Scarabeo decks doesn't bother me at all. So I was thinking, well, maybe if I got the Lo Scarabeo one, it would be a more pleasant experience. So I gave it a try. I thought, why not? Let's do it. Let's round out the whole beginning of my tarot journey with the Rider-Waite-Smith, the yellow box one, and I'm going to potentially, I say this now, it probably won't be the case, but end my tarot purchasing journey with the exact same deck, but in newer condition. Anyway, I kind of like the circular nature of that little Ouroboros of tarot decks. Anywho, so far so good. This was a great choice. It's not as like vintagey looking as the Centennial Edition. I'll show you some cards. You've all seen it before. But specifically the blue skied images, this is more of a teal color than a blue. I kind of like that though. It's a bit different, and you know, I don't mind that the lines are a little bit thicker. I'm not particularly chuffed with how this is parading as like the original 1909 because we all know it's not. What is that? I think this is a Pam C or a B instead of an A. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I just wanted a Rider-Waite Smith with borders that was a good size, so it's slightly narrower. Actually, let me see, compared to my yellow box one, which I've got right here. Yeah, it's a hair thinner. So here's the back. It's got the roses and the lilies backs, which is nice compared to my plaid back. And then, oops, so here's the front. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, you can tell it is just a hair thinner, and it's the same height as the yellow box one, which I think is about the same size as the Centennial. Anyway, that's a lot of going on about the same 3 copies of the same bloody deck, but anywho, whatever. That's the last one that I need. And I've been thinking too of if I can't find a way to regularly use and rotate my borderless Centennial edition, then I'll just sell it, and this will be my my beater deck, and then the yellow box one will be my special Rider-Waite Smith, and that's it. Because I don't want to. The fact that I have 3 copies of the Rider-Waite Smith kind of bothers me a wee bit. But anywho, so yes, I really like this. Even just holding it in my hands is nice. It feels right. Which is a weird thing to say about a stack of paper. But here we are. So I love coming back around to this, especially when I've kind of like gone down rabbit holes with other weird decks like the Surrealist Tarot, which is great, but if I want to be grounded again with my core tarot knowledge, this does it. This is like, the images, like I said, are burned on the back of my retinas. They're not going anywhere. I know them up and down, inside out. I know the little markings that spell Yahweh in the dress of the Temperance card. I know how there's a little skull on one of the cups in the 7 of Cups. Like, I know all the little details of this deck. So I miss it when I don't experience that in other decks. Because like other decks, Rider-Waite Smith clones or decks based around the Rider-Waite Smith can take the essence of each of the meanings of the cards and apply it to an image in their own special way. But just the straight, direct, symbolic imagery that is in this is not in a lot of other decks. It's in some. Obviously the Thoth, which I have been playing with this month too, has a lot of that kind of like direct symbolic imagery, as well as the Hermetic Tarot's got a bit of it as well. And then the last deck I'm going to talk about has quite a bit of it. But most modern decks don't have that like wealth of direct to image symbolism that the Rider-Waite Smith has, which is what makes it so great. And it's integrated so smoothly and so well in this deck. So anywho, that's a long-winded talk about a deck that everybody's seen 8 million times, but anywho, it lives in this lovely red velvet bag in my desk, and that makes me happy. And the last deck I want to talk about today is a pre-order that I pre-ordered back in, oh, when would it have been? December? Early December, I think. Which actually wasn't that long ago. I'm just surprisingly impatient. I always thought of myself as a patient person, but maybe not necessarily. And it's in this lovely little blue pouch, and I wonder if you can guess what it is. Oh, I'm so excited. This just got to me a day or so ago. I haven't even shuffled it yet, but I want to share because it's something that I'm excited about deep diving into. It was one I was planning on deep diving into because it came with a book. And by it came with a book, I mean I bought the book. Is the Alchemical Tarot. Oh, this is the brand new edition. This is the 6th edition, the Blue Sky edition, and it has an extra bonus card, which is well explained. This is by Robert M. Place. I ordered this directly from him, so if you ever want any of his decks, go to his website, send him an email, place an order, and it's a wonderful experience. He's a lovely fellow. And he knows a lot about tarot, which I really appreciate. Of all of his decks, this is the one I wanted to start with because I really want to, of all of the facets of tarot, Kabbalah, like Tree of Life stuff, elemental energies, numerology, astrology, alchemy is the one of those things that I don't know enough about, and I want to know more about it. And until the people who made Tarot Volatile publish a hard copy of that book, their like online guidebook, I'm still kind of in the dark about alchemy, and I guess the whole concept of it is it's supposed to be kind of mysterious stuff. I've done a fair bit of research online, but I still do not feel like I have a solid grasp of alchemy whatsoever. So I got the book that goes with the Alchemical Tarot. This is Robert M. Place's giant masterpiece called The Tarot, Magic, Alchemy, Hermeticism, and Neoplatonism, 3rd edition. So this is a guidebook to the Alchemical Tarot. It is also a guidebook to his deck, The Sevenfold Mystery, and it's also a reference book on the tarot in general, magic, alchemy, hermeticism, and Neoplatonism. So I'm very excited to read this beast of a book. It has so many beautiful pictures in it, and it is like 700 pages long, and I've heard great things about the way he writes, and from what I've read a couple of chapters, not chapters, but a couple of card descriptions already just to see, and the way he writes is good so far, as I can tell. It's like, it's easy to follow. It's not too, you know, esoteric or like doesn't expect you to know a whole lot first, which is nice. So not that this is a beginner book by any means, but it's accessible, which I think is great. So I'm very excited to read about that and learn how alchemy relates to the structure of tarot in a way that I can use as an added layer in my like tarot toolkit, as Tom Benjamin says. So it's just an extra layer of knowledge that I can take and apply to all the other decks that I use and get more out of the cards. So I'll show you a few. It's so clean. There's only a couple of dog hairs on it. It's the fabric box, which is delicious. There is a tiny little white book that comes with it if you don't want to get a big one, but I want to know all the secrets, so I did pick up the big book. It also has a bonus lovers card, so this is the more tame one. I chose to keep the racy one in because, you know. But the reason this is called the Blue Sky Edition is the sky is blue. The box in the original, the last couple editions, has been green. And this one is blue. The sky is blue in the background. I just think it looks pretty. It's quite nice. And this is it's a alchemical kind of hermetic deck, so you've got a lot of references to Greek gods, which we love. We love seeing Hermes pop up all over the place. And Diana's in here, slash Artemis. Wow, I don't know where my brain went there. And hopefully lots of other wonderful things that I can latch my brain onto and apply to my knowledge of tarot. These are the backs. Cute. And then I'll show you some more cards. But this is one of the decks that I would consider like a modern classic, kind of like a iconic take on the tarot that I want to learn more about. So very excited to give this one a go. Want to learn about the white lion and the, what is it, the white lion and the white lion and red snake. Yeah. Anywho, I feel like the Thoth has a lot of alchemy in it that I'm missing as well. So I want to know the things. Tell me the things. So I'm gonna put this sucker away. Can't believe I found a blue bag to go with it. This was me finding separately. And I'm like, ooh, that's perfect. This is, I'm gonna sew a little charm. I'm gonna see if I can find a Philosopher's Stone charm, and I'm gonna put it on here, and that'll be that. Yes, very excited about that. The little things, am I right? Another thing that I did this month, actually probably this week, I finally got around to creating my tarot spread compilation book. I've had this idea in my brain. I'm really not a spread person. I tend to just kind of go with the flow, make the reading happen as it happens, as it pours out of me, throw cards down where I need it, ask the questions. But sometimes I just can't think of what I want to ask. Sometimes I'm just not sure how I want to ask it. So I feel like having a reference book full of all of my favorite spreads, instead of just, okay, this comes into my depth here thing. So my depth here word of the year is creation. If I want something, create it. I was in the process of thinking of buying a book of tarot spreads, and then I thought, hold on, the internet is a wealth of resources of all sorts of amazing people making really cool tarot spreads. Why don't I just take some time, do some research, and find my favorite ones and just put them in one of those stacks of empty notebooks that you've got kicking around and make your own spread compilation book. So that's what I did. So this is it. This is my spread compilation book, and I've created it. And I didn't have to go and buy a new one. The only downside is you have to find the spreads. So I found I kind of had to like dig quite deep for ones that I thought would resonate with me. But the thing is, it's kind of like an ongoing project. So at the moment I've only got 16 spreads in here, but there's room for like 60 plus. So, and they take up 2 pages each. They're like a nice, there's this red layout and then what the cards mean on the other side. And I can build on it as I go. So I can, you know, if I find a spread somewhere that I really like, or if there's a guidebook somewhere that comes with a deck that there's a spread in there that I want to save forever, instead of just like thinking I need to maybe keep a deck for the spread that's in the book, I can just write the spread in here and like keep my collection of spreads all in one place. So it's got a little title page. I went to town. This is like a little craft that I did. And then yeah, it's got a table of contents, which has multiple pages, space to fill, and then we get into the spreads themselves, which I haven't decorated all the pages yet. But anyway, all my favorites are in here. I've got my, let's see, my main tarot energy overview spread, which is this one. This one I use the most, probably, when I just kind of want like a big spread that's kind of like an overall assessment. My within without advice, energy obstacle advice, my head needs, heart needs, soul needs spread, which I think is a Dawn Michelle spread. I should probably write that in there. She gets credit for that one. Mind, body, spirit spread. Doing well, do better. This is the Katie Flowers one. I love it's like collecting little bits of the people online that I like. Embrace, accept, release spread. And then there's some simple relationship assessment. A flower shaped one. There's an inner child spread, so I'm covering that basis. There's a shadow self spread, so that's the first of many shadow work spreads that I'm going to put in here, which I think is helpful, especially for shadow work, because having the prompts for shadow work I think is good. When you're just kind of going at shadow work on your own willy-nilly, it's like you can take it further if you want, kind of improv-ly. That's not a word, but I just invented it. You can take them down that road by yourself if you want, but having the prompts to begin with is really good, especially if you get to like a vulnerable place and you kind of need that extra push to ask those kinds of questions that are going to dig out the things that you want to dig out and address. So that's nice. I also have a mindset adjustment spread for when I'm in a funk. Those are good. Let go, lean in spread with like an oracle card focus, which is nice. And then this is the one I just made today, and I'm really excited about it. This one's cool. This is the Eleusinian Mysteries key spread. This spread is based on a passage in the book that I've been reading, which is Women Who Run with the Wolves, and it touches a little bit on the Eleusinian Mysteries, which is the cult of Demeter in ancient Greece, and their mysteries about awakening your inner power, etc., etc. Anyway, it worked out nicely to kind of be designed as a spread. So there's some key questions to ask yourself. It's like a shadow work spread, but it's very specific to like that specific aspect of self-realization. And it doesn't pull any punches. It's a very like, it'll make you extremely vulnerable, this spread. So it's a nice little 4-card spread that'll tear you to pieces. And then this one is a comparing 2 courses of action spread right here, which I was inspired to do because of my wonderful friend Sylvain and his most recent video. Maybe not his most recent, he's been pumping them out like mad lately, but one of his videos he had a layout that looked like this, and I thought, hey, that's handy, so I'm gonna put that in there. So Sylvain's represented as well. So if you've got a spread that you would like to submit for approval in the Theia's spread book, let me know and I will take it into account. If there's one that you really like using, let me know. I'll put it in there and write your little name next to it so you can forever be immortalized in my spread book. So that's fine. Okay, that was craft number 1. Craft number 2 is involving this book. This is Scott Cunningham's Incense, Oils, and Brews book. It's basically just a recipe book of witchy, smelly, magic-y, wonderful concoctions and brews and all that fun stuff. I haven't really like dove into it until quite recently, but it's cool. It's cool. I think this is going to be a good starting place. I'm not going to like take it like a oil creation bible. Like, my favorite thing about messing around with this kind of stuff is making my own shit. But just to kind of get an idea of like the way to mix stuff is a fun time. So what I made this. I love that it's this like little vial of mysteries. It's actually quite innocuous. This is a delicious, oh my gosh. This oil. I needed to make this oil. This needed to be the first oil that I made. Its base is grapeseed oil, which is important. It's 3 notes. Actually, no, there's 4 notes because it needed a little something extra. Its main note is orange. So sweet orange is its first ingredient. I feel like I shouldn't even be telling you, but whatever. We're gonna do it. We're doing it. It's happening. The next ingredient is bergamot. The next ingredient is just a smidgen of neroli, and then it needed something else, so I put in a tiny drop of cypress. So this is my Mediterranean oil. This oil takes me right back to the streets of Athens in the spring when the oranges are in blossom and you can smell them as you walk down the street. There's also the woody smell of the cypress trees and like the sweet, slightly citrusy but different hint that the neroli brings. It's a bit deeper. And then the bergamot. It's Earl Grey tea. It's perfect. I love it. Oh my gosh. It's my Greek oil. I freaking love it. So I'm gonna be rubbing this on myself constantly, and it will bring me back to wandering down the streets of Athens in the spring when I need that hit of warm, sunny inspiration. I love this. So I might even end up anointing my deck with this. I made lots, so I may anoint the deck with that, so my deck now smells like this, and it's perfect. I love it. So that has been a fun craft time. It did. And of course you do the whole smoke and think when you create it, do that, all the magic stuff. But I'm gonna keep that part private because you guys don't necessarily need to see that bit. But just know that that has been imbued with all of the magic that I could possibly pour into it. So that's a fun time. The last couple of things are just a few books that I've been reading this month. Mostly in the bath because that's the brand of self-care I've been enjoying. I'm dumping some salt and some bits of lavender from my garden, and then a couple of drops of oil in the bathtub is just enough to wash out all of the stressors in my body at the time. And I also read a good book. So one that I have been reading, I'm almost done, is The Self-Worth Path by Lisa Pepez. It's really good. It's just nice. Lisa's an excellent writer. Lisa is wonderful. It's a guided journey to an empowered life. There's 22 chapters. Well, 21 chapters and an intro. I imagine she meant the intro to be the full. Anyway, it's based around the structure of the major arcana, which is wonderful. And it's just a really great book for self-care, especially if you're like me and you struggle with your own personal identity, your self-worth, your value as a human being, your place in the world. It's just, I've just been really enjoying it. So mind you, I'm not at the tower chapter yet. Ask me again when I get to chapter 16. But that being said, I'm really liking that. So if you're curious, have a look. I think she does have this whole series on her YouTube channel about the book. So if you're curious, dive into that. And then the other book I've been reading was Rebel Witch by Kellyanne Maddox, and I had to pick this one up. This one is just, as a self-proclaimed baby witch, it's hard to say because when I was in high school, probably even before I got into tarot, I started reading witchy books. But then I stopped. I absolutely have not picked up a witchy book since I was probably 18. So I'm back at the beginning again. Like, I know a little bit. Like, I used to have the Grimoire of Lady Sheba. That was my witchy book. That and a Nocturnal Witch, I think, that was a Llewellyn book. Those were like my witchy books. And that was it. I had someone's grimoire, which had no instructions in it. It was just like random recipes. And I'm like, oh, where do I find these weird ingredients? It was a weird time. And then this like Nocturnal Witch, which was all about going to graveyards and stealing graveyard dirt and getting nails and like doing nighttime rituals and stuff, which really, it sounded cool, but like turns out my practice is nothing like that now. So I very much lean into like the green hedge witchy type thing, but I'm still learning. I'm still learning about where I kind of stand in that regard. And that's enter this book. I really like the whole solitary self-regulated practice, and this kind of is helping me figure out the best way to do that and kind of embrace the ways that I want to do things and understand the validity in my feelings and my feelings as practices. So I'm really enjoying this so far. So we're not done yet. I'll probably give you a longer review of, if you'd like reviews of both of those, let me know and I can do those. But yeah, those are my those are my books that I've been tucking into this month. So it's been a busy month when it comes to paper. Lots of books, lots of cards, and then a little bit of oil, but it's been great. I've been doing a bit of candle stuff. I've been doing a bit of meditation, just kind of like trying to bring myself out of the pit of despair that has been this winter that doesn't seem to want to end. But we're getting there. We're almost there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to spring very deeply. So thank you all so much. If you've made it to the end, I really appreciate it. Comment sweet orange in the comments below. I like this whole hiding a secret word in them at the end, and then you let me know at the bottom if you've reached the end. So pineapple was last one. A lot of you did it, and it made my heart so happy. So hide sweet orange in your sentence, so I'll know that you made it to the end, and that'll be fun. But seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're looking after yourself and keeping, like, protecting your own mental health, because that's important too. I know a big thing for me is feeling guilty for even having anything to say that doesn't seem important. Like, just going about my life, I just feel bad, and I need to kind of push past that and like and help where I can, send love where I can, and go on with my day and enjoy things. Don't like give myself permission to enjoy things, basically. So yes, thank you all for being here. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. I will see all of you fine people in my next video.